Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday evening. It's been a long day today, but I made it. I just wanted to, Marquetta, Jean, I know there's going to be more people filing in at some point soon. And I just wanted to give a proper introduction to my guest tonight. Um, I have been watching her channel for a really long time. And I love, hey, Spooky, hey, Ida. I've been watching her channel for a really long time, and I love her poise. I love her interview style. I love her content, and she's just a badass lady. And I can't wait for you guys to all meet her, hear her story, and enjoy tonight's show. Okay, I want to give her a little introduction. Bettina Moss is a dental hygienist from Alabama. She's always been open minded when it comes to all things paranormal, aliens, UFOs, and the unexplained. She had an interest in cryptids since she was a teenager, but back then all she knew about was the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot from watching TV shows like Sightings and from seeing articles in the National Enquirer on creatures such as Bigfoot. Years later, when social media platforms such as YouTube came on the scene, she started watching documentaries and videos and listening to podcasts where eyewitnesses were sharing their encounters and experiences with Bigfoot. She came across shows where people, oh, I'm sorry. She came across shows where people were talking about Dogman, and that's when she got interested in learning more about them, never thinking that one day that she would have her very own Dogman encounter that would actually change her life forever. It's because of that encounter she started her own Facebook group and YouTube channel, Cryptonormal Encounters with B. Moss, to reach out to other eyewitnesses. So let's give a warm welcome to Miss Bettina Moss.
Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here tonight with Nona Boss. I'm so excited, and I'm always willing to learn more and share whatever I know about cryptids with everybody who's interested in learning about these creatures. So I'm really happy to be here. Thank you, Marty, for having me on your show.
Oh no, pleasure is all mine, all mine. I just when I hear and I because I kind of stalk you just a little bit. I see I see you on DA and I see you on all these other shows, and I'm like, I listen every single time. I love hearing your encounter story. I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. It's for me. It's amazing your story, especially because I mean, you had headlights on this creature, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
you saw detail that a lot of people, a lot of people are like, oh, it was in the tree line and I saw an outline of a figure, but you had a clear, close up, lights on it encounter. So you want to walk us through it?
Yes, and that was my first encounter with, that I had with Dogman. I already knew about them already. I've been listening to several shows for years, paranormal podcasts, cryptid podcasts, Bigfoot shows like Sasquatch Chronicles, and all the different ones. Bigfoot Outlaw Radio, I think that might have been Kumbo and Bear. I think that's the name of their show. And so I already knew about. I found out about Dogman by watching those shows because YouTube had brought up suggested videos, and of course Dogman came up, and I kind of laughed it off at the time because I thought it was ridiculous, and I never thought that I would have an encounter. I started watching the videos, and I kind of, like I said, I laughed it off at first, and I just thought, this is ridiculous. I mean, they're just reaching right now. They're just kind of trying to pull everything out of the box, like you basically saying a werewolf exists. The more interviews and the more shows and eyewitnesses that I heard talking about their encounters, the more it actually made me to start to believe, because there were so many people telling their encounters all over the world that I was like, you could actually feel the emotion in their voice when they were talking. So I just basically said, okay, this is interesting. So at that point, I stopped listening so much to Bigfoot stuff, because once I got on listening to Dogman, that became my sole focus, because it was way more it was scarier than Bigfoot. Bigfoot
Yeah.
was scary in and of itself, but something that looks like a werewolf that you've been told that monsters don't exist. So for me, I got almost, I don't want to say obsessed with listening to. I guess I will say obsessed because I listen to shows on it like from morning, noon, and night on the way to work, lunch break, after I get off from work, all the way up to I would go to sleep at night. But I never thought I'd have an encounter. So to get into that first encounter that I had with the dog man, I'm gonna basically out of the land of how everything was set up. If you remember the old ranch style brick houses from the 80s, or like kind of just elongated and rectangular shape,
Hmm.
and so my parents had an old ranch style house. They had like the front of the house is not where we would park on the sidewalk. We would park around the side of the house. That's the main door that we always would go in when we go. Me, my sister, and other family members would go in. Now their driveway was at an incline, which had a lattice carport around it. They didn't have a garage; they had a lattice carport built on, and they had three vehicles. Both of their vehicles would be underneath either side of the carport. And then they had an extended driveway that they had extended over outside of that for my dad's pickup truck. So whenever I would go over to visit them on the weekends, there was never anywhere for me to park except for like on the road down at the bottom of the street, like underneath this tree. So I'm telling y'all all that so you can kind of paint a picture of what's going on directly behind, like if you pull off the main road and into their neighborhood, keeping straight ahead, like just where their house is and other houses are on that end, that's a dead end. Like there's like five or six houses right there in that section. If you're going to go to the other houses in the neighborhood, once you pull straight ahead into the neighborhood, you're going to make a left, and that's where most of the other houses are in the neighborhood, further down. So the whole neighborhood of houses, for the ones that's not on the front side, the ones that are on the back side, it their neighborhood is bordered by woods, basically. So it's bordered by woods behind it. Um, where I'm parked at with underneath this tree on the sidewalk down below, what I see is that I'm not seeing it right away because I wasn't looking. The reason I would go visit my parents is because during hunting season, which I was close to my parents anyway, so I would go visit them every weekend regardless. But during hunting season, sometimes my husband would be gone for 3 or 4 days. And, so since he's gone hunting for 3 or 4 days, this is a good time to go spend time with my family. So I would go down every weekend and stay.
Hmm.
So that particular weekend, I had that first dogman encounter. It wasn't unlike any other weekend for me. I pull up and pull next to the curb, and you know, I bring a lot of stuff with me whenever I come to visit them. Like I would have the makeup box, all that stuff in the front seat, a whole bunch of
Hmm.
extra stuff. And so it was about 8 o'clock at night. It was the month of November 2013, and I'm trying to gather as much stuff out of the front seat from inside of the car. It's in the passenger seat, um, trying to gather as much stuff out of the passenger seat and off the floorboard on the passenger side to gather those things and put them in the little bags that I had or in my purse, stuff that I carry in, so I wouldn't have to make an extra trip to come back outside. Because I also had the suitcase in the back also, and I just wanted to kind of pretty much, it's dark and I've been listening to all these
Yeah.
encounters, so I just wanted to make sure I can. It scares you to a certain degree,
Yeah.
but I'd
Yeah.
never seen anything all those years. So, but still, I still had this fear factor where I felt like I need to just go ahead and gather everything now. And I'm not paying attention. I didn't cut the car off like I normally would pull up, cut the car off, and after I parked. But that particular night, I didn't. So I think I was supposed to see what I saw. So I'm gathering stuff, looking down. After I got everything gathered up that I was going to put in my purse, then I look back, straight ahead because there's a wood line that there's a trail that actually leads into the woods that goes like pretty far back into the woods. And I've been back there as a kid before, but in my adult years, I had not, or teenage years even, I had not gone back there. But that particular night, after I finally looked back up and looked straight ahead, I seen something really black, really tall, like on that path, on that trail. It had its back to me, but I wasn't sure if my mind was playing tricks on me or if I just saw something wrong or what. But I just looked and I'm like, I know that's not what I think it is. And so there's a certain level of curiosity, certain level of excitement, and a certain level of fear all at one time because I'm
Sure.
looking and I'm like, I know that's not what I
Yeah.
think it is. So then I put my
Yeah.
high beams on it. So when I put the high beams on it, I looked and I don't know if I already said this or not. It had its back to me. It was not on all fours. It was something that was really tall, really black. It was darker than the darkness. They didn't have street lights on that end of the neighborhood at that time. So basically, it was much darker. It stood out enough that I could tell that it wasn't a shadow. So it
Hmm.
had its back to me, and I'll go into and explain to you in a few minutes what I think it was doing. But it had its back to me, and I think when the regular low beam lights were on it, I think that it probably decided in its own mind, if I just stand really still, they won't see me here. I'm blending
Hmm.
in with my surroundings. But
Right.
it didn't do anything until I put the high beams on it. When I put the high beams on it, it pretty much at that point was spotlighted. So at this moment,
Yeah.
my mind says that it basically looked and turned. It decided to turn around because I feel like, and I'm not in a dog man's head, but I feel like it stayed with its back to me the entire time until I put that high beam on it. So when it turned around, it turned, looked at the car, but not at the car, like looked straight into the windshield, straight into my eyes, and it made eye contact with me for about 8 to 10 seconds.
Hmm.
Um, at this moment, I had tears rolling down my eyes because I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I can't believe, like, I'm really looking at this right
Yeah.
now. Like, and it's actually staring at me. And Marty, like a regular dog or coyote or any regular animal, it might turn and look at the car, but it's not going to turn back and look directly into the
In your
windshield.
eyes.
It knows where you're sitting at in the car. Like regular animals don't know that kind of stuff. They look back at the car. Or if you got a dog that, you put
Hmm.
them in somebody's driveway and, you have where dogs will pop up every now and then and they might come up and look through the window at you. But this was different.
Hmm.
This thing knew exactly where I was sitting at. It knows to me like basically humans sit in a car in the seat. It knew exactly where to look. So I'm gonna describe to you what I saw. Um I'm not really good at gauging height, but I can say that my tallest cousin is about 6'4" or something like that, and this thing was taller than that. I'm gonna say it had to be anywhere between 8 to 9 feet tall. Most people, when they explain dog man, the general consensus for the most part, the one that stands out the most that most people talk about is the one that looks like a Nubis or the black German Shepherd type dog man
Uh-huh.
or Doberman. But I did see those later, but that's not the one I saw that night in my first encounter. That first night, what I saw was a dog man that stood 8.5 to 9 feet tall. It had the upper body of a bodybuilder or weightlifter. It actually had the abs and it had the pecs, it had the tapered waist, and it had those hawk style legs. So from the moment I first put up that curve, it was already standing on 2 feet. It never went down on all fours. I'm
Mm.
looking at this dog man, it's looking at me. And I'm just in awe. Some people ask me, well, did it have a tail? I don't remember it having a tail because I really wasn't focused on that at that moment, even though its back was to me. I was
Mhm.
looking at its stature, how tall it was, how massive, how muscular it was. And I also knew from all the encounters that I heard that they were pretty stealthy. They had a lot of speed to them. And I also had a fear too, because I know that with my car, like every now and then the automatic locks don't work on the car. So I was worried that this was going to be one of those times that this thing walks over here because it's just only a few feet or a few yard or so, whatever, away from me. So if that thing decides to come over here right now, what if this is one of those times where it comes over here and opens the door?
Yeah.
Because you know how
Yeah.
fast
Yeah.
Marty and people
Yeah.
say that they are.
Yeah.
It doesn't take them
Yeah.
to quickly get from point A to point B.
Point B.
So it's
Right.
it's actually standing there, and in my mind, like I'm going through all these thoughts in my head, and I'm thinking, please God, don't let this thing come over here, because this will be one of those times that the door didn't lock. And the
Yeah.
reason behind that was because, like every now and then, I pull up in my driveway at my parents' house, No, not my parents' house, at my house. I would pull up in the driveway, and my husband would come outside, and he would be bringing the dog out there to me after I get off from work, because she's excited in the house and ready to see me. And he would walk up to the car at times and just open the door. When you got automatic locks, it's supposed to lock
Mhm.
immediately, like as soon as you drive off or as soon as you
Right.
park. Sometimes it didn't work. So that's what was in my head at that moment. So when I said, please, God, don't let that thing walk over here, the um, next thing that happened was basically it's that telepathic speaking that a lot of people talk about. This would be the one and only time out of all my sightings and encounters with dogmen that I can say that I feel like it actually spoke to me telepathically. But it answered that thought. And like I said, right now, I've told it on my show and the last few shows I've been on. I don't remember if I said that out loud or if I thought that in my head. But either way, that's what was in my mind. And it heard that and it said, "Oh, it's just you. No big deal." That's what came to my head. Like it responded to me, to
Mm.
what I said. So I didn't think about it at the time until later on. I guess after maybe some time had passed and I heard more encounters, there were times when people on some shows said, "Well, I felt like it knew me, like it had seen me before. Maybe it watched me
Mm.
grow up during my childhood." My parents moved in the house in like 1985, and they didn't move out of there until 2019. So they lived there over 30 years.
And
So I
never had
felt
a sighting?
they never had a sighting. I even showed them pictures of them.
Mhm.
Most people aren't looking for that kind of stuff.
Right.
Most people, if you're not outside
Yeah.
sitting on the
Yeah.
porch or
Yeah.
cutting grass, not most people are not looking into the woods, and they're not like watching nature. They're not, and even if they did, they still probably would have thought, if anything, they probably would have thought it was a bear or something natural. They never would have thought twice about it. But the thing said, it's just you, no big deal. So after it said that, it casually turned its back and slowly strolled off, like going down that path, which I think that was originally where it was going already when it had its back to me. I think it was
Mhm.
originally getting ready to go down into the woods then, but it remained still because most people who pull into the neighborhood, they're not pulling down on that end, even though there's 5 or 6 houses there. Most people in that end of the neighborhood are older and they're in for the night.
Mhm.
So I believe what happened was the dog man is used to anybody, if it does pull in the neighborhood, they're going out further into the neighborhood where the other houses are. And
Right.
so, but that night I pretty much forced it to turn around, almost like, "Oh, you got me." And it turned around to face whoever had spotlighted it. It didn't have the amber eyes that most people talk about. I've seen something with amber eyes before, further off in the distance, but I couldn't make it out. I couldn't see anything. It was too low to the ground. But I have seen something that had amber eyes before back there in that same path. This one, though, on that night, it had these blue, really beautiful blue, turquoise blue eyes, like those pictures that you see of the ocean, like at tropical
Mhm.
islands and stuff like that. But it was luminescent, so it was glowing from within. And yeah,
So it
so
so it wasn't I mean, eye shine. It wasn't eye shine. They actually like glowed from the
mhm,
inside out kinda thing.
absolutely.
So when it actually said to you, you know, "Oh, it's you, no big deal," like, that is a level of familiarity that it had
Hmm.
with you.
Absolutely.
So, now did you live far away from your parents, or were you
Yes.
kinda close? Or and the only reason I'm asking that is because a lot of people and their encounters that they have discussed and talked about, that dog man really like to follow you. And
Yeah.
so it makes me, wonder, like, do you think he was seeing you, or saw you at home and then also there? I don't It's
I think
interesting.
that it had a level of familiarity with me that I felt like some people have asked me, and I'm going to answer that, and I'm building up to it. Some people have asked me, did you not feel any fear? Were you not afraid in that moment?
Mhm,
Did you feel a sense of evil or dread?
mhm,
And I'm going to be honest, like, I didn't feel a sense of evil or dread. I had fear, but I had fear because I knew that they existed, but I had fear because This thing is massive. Number one. Number two, I never expected that I would have an encounter like this. Number three, it's basically right there out in the open, not behind trees, not
Right.
behind bushes. I'm looking at the full body of this thing. Like if I'd had a dash cam, I probably would have had like one of the best dogman videos ever in full body style. But I didn't have that feeling of fear because maybe it was because it didn't approach the car, it didn't
Hmm.
run at me, it didn't give me this evil presence or vibe. It just stared into my eyes for whatever reason, 8 to 10 seconds, and then it said, "Oh, it's just you, no big deal." What I thought about, what
That's crazy.
rationalization I came to with that later after hearing other people's encounters and stuff was that I grew up there. I stayed in that house. Like my parents raised me there. I moved out when I was about 21, 22 years old.
Mm.
So either between that time, it was either there at some point during the years when I was growing up, or if that wasn't the case, then all the years that I've been coming over here for several years to visit my parents now that I'm older, um, then it's at some point seeing me out there. I would always go outside and smoke.
Hmm.
So whether I went outside, if it was cold in the wintertime to smoke and sit in the car, or whether I would go out and just, be, suited up like in my coat and stuff like that, sitting out there, like they had this huge toy chest outside of their front door, or not front door, the side door under the lattice carport. So I would just go like right outside the door, sit on that huge box and smoke. And sometimes I'd be looking at the woods, and sometimes I'd just sit there and relax and smoke and then go back in. But I feel like that the thing seen me at some point, like for whatever reason, but it wasn't like it was looking at a stranger based on what it said. It's like, I've seen you enough to know that you're not a threat. You're no
Right.
harm. I know who you
Right.
are. Oh, you
So,
asked me how far. I'm sorry, I forgot to
no,
answer
it's okay.
that.
Go ahead.
I lived about 45 minutes away from my parents.
Okay. And do you have wood? Did you have woods around your home at that time?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
At my
So,
house too.
so what I'm, so when he spoke to you and he was very like nonchalant, Mr. Cool Dude,
Uh huh.
did it put you at ease a little bit? Did it
Well,
kind of take the fear away just a little? I mean,
it I was more in awe because it's one of those things, like if you ever were to see like an angel for the first time, or you see something supernatural for the first time,
mhm,
you're, even if you have fear or whatever you have, it's still this thought in your mind
mhm.
like who am I that I'm allowed to see this right now? Because I still feel like they pick and choose who to show themselves to.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
on this particular night, though, I don't feel like it was a thing where it chose for me to see it. I think I caught it off guard. I think that it had just basically come out of wherever it stays in the daytime when everybody's out. They don't.
Mhm.
They do come out in the daytime too. Most of the pictures, all the pictures that I have, are in the daytime with them. But I feel like I felt at ease. I wasn't worried. It did tell me I know. It basically said I know who you are,
Yeah,
and it showed off casually, just like you're going to go for a walk in the park. It didn't go on all fours. It didn't take off running. It just casually walked away, like I can turn my back on you. I'm not worried about you.
yeah,
Uh, so that's the answer to that. Now, once I saw that dog man that day, I knew that okay, where there's one, there's more. This ain't the only one back there.
right.
It just, to me, it's not the only one back there. To me, the fact that that's there, there's other ones back there too. Now, the only thing that I found strange that night was like, why is it out in the wide open? Usually, from what I'd heard, they're usually hiding behind trees or bushes, or you
Mhm,
can only see like the head and shoulders, the ears, the upper body
mhm.
area, because half the time they're hiding. I caught it off guard that night. That's what I've come to. I caught it off guard that night, and it was standing in front of, and this is a tree, I'm gonna say a fir tree, but it was standing in front of this tree. I call it a bush though, because of the way it's shaped. It's almost shaped like a canopy or an umbrella, where it's kind of rounded and it comes down at the bottom to like this curtain where you could actually go underneath that tree and actually, if you were a kid playing hide and seek, probably about 20 kids could fit underneath it and not be seen at
Yeah,
all. Now, I didn't find out until later on. Now, I kind of came to that rationalization on my own, that I feel like what happened was that it just came out of that tree, because this tree was huge. But I'm going to tell you what ended up happening later on, where I ended up finding out that this wasn't just any ordinary tree. Kumbo Baker, I met him in, I can't remember if it was March or April this year. And somebody else, another lady, Mary Fabian, had put me in touch with him. She's at the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society
Mhm.
research. She put me in contact with him. He came. Kumbo actually lives about 45 minutes away from where my parents live now.
Oh, that's great.
Oh yeah, I was so excited to have him to come. He came and we were getting ready to head down that trail into the woods. And before we went all the way back there, he stopped right there where that dog man was standing that day. And he stopped in front of that tree. He said, "Oh," he said, "there's a sentinel tree." I said, "What is a sentinel tree?" He said, "This is a tree where cryptids like dogman or whatever," he said, "this is where they actually sit in these trees and they perch and they sit and watch what's going on. Like they monitor what's going on in the neighborhood, monitor the people as they come and go." So when he said that, I was like, "How can you tell that?" So the bush or the tree had like, you know how like some trees, like even when it's kind of overgrown, you can still see spaces in between where you can look
Right.
further into it. He parted the leaves and branches back, and when he did that, I could see the branches that were in there. He said, "You see these branches? Do you see how this is completely slick and clean?" He said, "Something has been sitting there for a long enough time, and it was big enough that it's completely wore down all the bark off of these branches." It was amazing. Like when it looked
Whoa.
like somebody actually shaved it down like they would if they're making a cane or some kind of woodwork. There was no bark on it at all. And I said, "You know what, Kumbo?" I said, "That's interesting that you say that." I said, because I hadn't told him at that point. I said,
Right.
"This is where that dog man was standing in front of this tree that night when I saw it. I think it had just come down out of that tree.
Wow.
I think it had just came out of that tree. And I caught it off guard just
Yeah.
as it came out. And like I said, most people who pull into the neighborhood, they go further out into the other houses. They don't come down to that cul-de-sac. So it wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I've always said that the one thing I fear is Dogman. Like I really don't have a whole lot of fear, and I've talked about that before. I usually stand my ground. I'm not usually
Hmm.
I'm one of those, and I've had my fair share of encounters of all kinds of things, cryptids and you know paranormal and
Hmm.
UFO and all those things. But it's the dog man that scares me. That's the one
Well,
that scares me.
if you look at it and you really think about it, it's because like you watch all these movies about vampires and werewolves for
Mhm.
years, probably from teenage years to being a kid, and it was scary. And then your parents told you monsters don't exist. But then when you actually see something like that, it's like, hold on now, like y'all said
Mhm.
this didn't exist. Now a creature from your nightmares is actually out there in the woods for real. Now, if you are a person who was an avid hunter, has had an experience, somebody who likes to go camping or on vacation and stay in the cabins or hiking or bicycling through the woods, now the things that are in the dark, because I heard this saying, and it's like a phrase that I've heard people say before. They said it's not the darkness that I'm afraid of; it's what's in the darkness.
Right.
And so,
Yes.
and also
Yes.
like
Yes.
when it comes
Yes.
to cryptid, Bigfoot, dogman research, or any other cryptids, they say often like when you go looking into the darkness go starts to look back at you. So I do feel, and I will tell you here in a second, that there's a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't realize when it comes to Dogman and Bigfoot. Well, I don't know about Bigfoot. Well, I know a little about Bigfoot, but I can tell you what I know as far as Dogman is concerned. Um, I will say that when it comes to Dogman, the one that I saw that night did not approach me aggressively.
Mhm.
Um, it let me know who I was, and it casually walked away. It was almost like I mean you no harm.
Right.
Um, but after that day, I can't remember how much time had passed before I actually started to go outside and take pictures. I didn't go into the woods right away and start going back there to go looking for them or other creatures. It
Mm.
took me probably about a year before I actually went back there. Maybe 6 months to a year before I actually went back in those woods in the daytime. But I took other people out there with me when I went. But prior to going back there into those woods, after that encounter, I started taking pictures. I would stand in like at that box that I told you I would sit on sometimes, sit there, record videos, and take pictures for hours. Sometimes, yeah, sometimes I would actually sit in the car and be outside smoking. But out of all the times after that encounter, every time, every weekend that I would be there, there wasn't many times at all that I didn't see them out there. Period. That they weren't watching, but
Right.
that was the one and only time that I saw one standing out in the open. Other times after that, they were always behind trees and bushes, and they were always hidden. So you could only see like
Hmm.
their head and snout, ears, upper body, and they would just kind of watch. Now, there have been a couple of times when I've been in the backyard at my parents' house, and I actually, I would go over there and I would let my little dog run in the backyard and play and had a little Yorkie. One day we were back there and she liked to play with the soccer ball. I'd be kicking it around. She'd come and run up and play with it. But something in my mind said, look to your left. I looked
Mm.
over to the left and looked over those trees. I knew exactly where to look. When I looked over there, I saw something extremely black. When I say black, I mean blacker than black. I mean past midnight black. It was super black.
Right.
I know what shadows look like in the trees, and I know how that looks. But this was way darker than the shadows. But I couldn't make it out. I couldn't make out any features or anything like that. So at this point, because I had that feeling, and I didn't feel it. I didn't feel like that dread. I just heard in my head, "Look over there. Look to the left."
Hmm.
When I did that, and I saw something black there, that's when I was like, "Chloe, come on, girl, let's go." And I kept telling at that point she was a young
Mm.
dog, so she's taking off running full speed and playing. And I'm like, Chloe, get
Sure.
over here. She's taking off. I used to call Chloe Rocket back then because she could run so fast. I approach her and I try to get her. She speed off again. Like, Chloe, damn it, get over here now. Get over here now. I'm ready to go. So I finally hunkered down. I had to scare Chloe and like basically cuss her out. Like, get over here now, Chloe, please. She finally hunkered down to the ground. I picked her up, and then the closer I got towards the front of the fence, like getting back close to my parents' door, I call it the front door, but it's not. It's the side door, but I just call it that because that's the door we always went in. But as I got to the front of that chain link fence, before I left that backyard, I took about 4 or 5 pictures. And I had her in my arm, and I took about 4 or 5 pictures consecutively. And I looked at that before I left the backyard. And when I looked at the pictures, I was like, oh shit, oh my God, like I can't. Yeah, time to go now. Time to go now. Ain't no standing around. Ain't no more picture
Yeah.
taking for the day. It's over now.
Yeah.
Because what I
Photo
saw,
session over.
yes. Because when I saw what I saw, like when I looked at that picture, because most of the time, like when I would go back and review the pictures and videos, it wouldn't be right then, like directly after I recorded. After I sat out there for a few hours, then I would be like, okay, I'm ready to go in now. I would go back
Hmm.
and watch the videos and pictures. But that day, that was so black. I said, I need to see what that is because that's got to be something that's not normal. It was the blackest thing you can think of. Put it up there and at the forefront of the leaves of the tree, and it's like right there. You know that that's not the same color as the shadows, the darkness.
Right.
So I took the picture. What I saw was two things. Two things were going on, and but there's more than one dog man in that tree that day.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Whoa.
Now I did not see either one. What I saw with my own eyes was the jet black. When I took the picture, that jet black was a massive dog man head. It was so huge. And I'll send you the pictures on this after the show because I need to help you to like kind of try to make sense of it. But its
Sure.
head was so huge that that body you could only see the head. The rest of it was covered under high heavy foliage and leaves, branches, all that. So you couldn't. That's all you could see. But his head was so huge that this thing had to have been at least 12 or 14 foot tall in order to have a head that big. It just wasn't natural. And I've heard on some encounter shows before that I've listened to where people have said um, it had a head the size of a what do they call it? Like some kind of chest or like one of those like coolers or whatever. I guess this thing's head was massive. I don't even know how to explain it to you any way than that. way larger than a basketball. I can't even think how to even explain it. I'll just have to show you the picture. But I looked at that picture before I left the backyard that day. When I looked at it, um, I saw both eyes on it. I saw the snout and I saw the nose. It had like the little black dog's nose, like your regular dog. But the scariest part about it was that it was like it was like I can't do it right now, but it was showing its teeth. It was snarling at me.
Oh,
Um, so now what it looked like, it didn't have the Anubis or German Shepherd head. It had that same head that I told you, somewhat like the one I saw that night. I don't know if that was the one I saw that night,
well,
but I know it looked more like a pit bull or Rottweiler. It had a shorter snout and the cropped ears.
I'm
That's what
gonna
it looked like.
I'm gonna bring up. I actually, in anticipation of our conversation about Dog Band tonight, and I'm sure
Hmm.
you've seen this, but I'm gonna bring this up real quick here, and
Hmm.
maybe it will help everybody. I'm sure you've seen this, right? The 7 quote unquote types or variants of a dog man. So
I have
your your first encounter, which one do you think it looked closer to?
none of those.
None of
Um,
those.
None of them. The first encounter, if you can just in your mind right now, if you know what a Rottweiler looks like or a pit bull with cropped ears, with
Yes.
that short snout. That's what it looked like. It didn't look like any of those. Now the chart, I've talked about this chart before in my group and on my shows as well. I don't feel like that there is a variant of like 7 different types. I don't think that. I think that because there's too many variations of them, too many
Hmm.
colors, too many eye colors, too many coat colors or fur color, too many different types of ears. Some of them have the floppy ears, some of them have the German Shepherd pointy ears, and then you got
Hmm.
the ones that have cropped ears. You've got some dog men that have what do you call it, like the humanoid type legs, and you got the one with the hawk style legs. You have
My
ones where
gosh.
people have reported ones that have only 3 toes with the claw prints, and then it's just several different variations. Sometimes the prints will show up as like a regular dog's footprint, but very huge, 7, 8, 9, 10 inches long. There's several different variations. I feel like when it comes to dog man, I feel like that there's different breeds, just like there's different breeds of dogs or other
Right.
animals, and different coat colors and all that. So I don't like to put it in a box because of what I've seen. Probably before I'd ever had my encounters, I probably would have
Hmm.
said, yeah, I believe there's 7 different types, but that's because I didn't know any better and I didn't know what I've seen for myself. Now, also, I'm going to tell you this real quick, Marty, and I'm going to let you go ahead and ask me another question. But also in that same tree, there was another one that was standing upright and it's fully visible, full body upright in that tree. More, and it looked more like a husky or a wolf.
And was it the same size as the one that had the huge head? Were they both the same size in the tree?
No, because the one that had a huge head, all you could see was its head and all of
Uh-huh.
its facial features. The other one, it was standing upright in the tree. It was tall, and I'll have to send you the picture so you can see it. I'm not sure exactly how to gauge it,
Hmm.
but it was, and it's not looking straight ahead like the black one was. It was at a profile like that. It was at a profile position, so it's standing at the side, like
Uh-huh.
perpendicular to me. So when I'm looking at it, I'm looking at its head turned that way. The snout was light gray, like a wolf or a fox coming out. The head and the area is charcoal gray or dark gray, and it has the pointy ears on top of its head. Then you can see it goes all the way down to where you can see the area underneath, like the underarm area, shoulders, all that. But then there's a branch covered with leaves on it that goes across its waist. Then directly below that branch, you can see the rest of the body, which is the hocks, which is dark gray like the rest of the body. But
Hmm.
then the feet are light gray, the same color as the snout. And I called that one. I just gave them different names, but I'd only seen that one time, I think. But that one I called the wolf or husky type dog, man, because it looked like a wolf or husky because of the
Right.
coloration. It didn't have that massive head. It was
Crazy.
just a completely different. I feel like it was an adult, but I feel like that was 2 different types of dog, man, on that day in that tree.
Interesting. Interesting. So, did you? So in that during that encounter, no mind speak. Nothing happened in that they didn't say anything. They did, but they
No,
stayed in the tree, right? They didn't
they stayed in
give
the tree.
they stayed in
Hmm.
the tree.
They never came
So
forward and approached me at all.
so what type were your sightings or encounters, were they like at the same time of year every year or different times throughout the year, or was it like,
Different times throughout the year.
so it leads you to believe they're there all year round
Yeah, or they
in
migrate
that
there.
area?
Maybe different ones come through at different times, but yeah, they
Mhm.
migrate through. Either that or they live back there all the time. There's a
Right.
huge, deeper area that goes way back further than I'm even willing to go. It goes way deep into a whole nother area of the woods that I've not
Yeah.
tried to go through. I think that the German, the one I told you that I saw the one day standing under that carport though,
Mhm.
sitting on the box smoking. The one I saw that night or that day, it wasn't nighttime, but it had a German Shepherd head. I called that one German Shepherd, Dogman, or Anubis. I kind of use that interchangeably. It would watch, and that one would actually stand out there and watch every time I was smoking. It would watch for about 45 minutes to an hour, remaining completely still.
Wow.
Now, they do move, they do make subtle movements. A lot of times you won't catch it unless you're taking a bunch of consecutive pictures back to back, rapid fire, like taking pictures, because your eye, I don't know if it's their movements. One thing I've heard people say on some of these shows is that Dog Man, even when the wind is blowing, I think I heard Scott Carpenter mention this before as well. When the wind is blowing, they try to move with the movements of the wind so that it's so subtle that you won't capture it.
Yes. So do Sasquatch.
Yes, I've
Yes.
heard that too. So
They
you just
do.
have to be careful with them. After that, there was never a time when I would turn my back on them. It changed me as
Yeah.
far as like going outside at night for a long time, and then I finally got more comfortable later on to go outside at night. But it wasn't very far. If I went outside to smoke, if I was at their house on the weekends, then I would step outside the door, but I
Yeah.
would be standing between the storm door and I don't know what you call it, the storm door and like the regular door. Like I would stay in that crack and smoke
Yeah.
right there,
Yeah.
because on either side of the carport, they could have came around from the back side of the house and came
Sure.
around from one side, or they could have came around from the other side as well. I wanted to
Yeah.
make sure I got a better point either way. Now, I will tell you something interesting on a paranormal aspect in a few minutes about it, but I want to see if you had any more questions first before I went on.
You know, I think my I think where I get a little, and this is why, because you've like a, I think I know, like Sasquatch more. I'm more familiar with Sasquatch than I am with Dogman, and do you believe that all of them are flesh and blood?
Okay.
That's what I.
Okay. So I guess to answer your question, my belief on Dogman, even Sasquatch as well, but I haven't had any experiences with Sasquatch. There's been times in some of the pictures I've taken,
Mhm.
and because of how heavily wooded it is back there, I do think that there's probably some Sasquatch back there too. But because I've seen some humanoid type looking faces or ape type looking faces with a brow ridge in it. But I'm not a eyewitness to that. So,
Yeah.
but what I can tell you is that from my own personal belief, um, I feel that they're flesh and blood and paranormal at the same time. I think that they're both, because the reason I say that is because you have different factions of people who have different beliefs. Some
Right.
are flesh and blood only, some are Nephilim, some
Mhm.
are they're demons, some are that they're shapeshifters or they're aliens from another planet, they're interdimensional beings. Okay, well they might be all of that. But here's the thing, like the one and only thing for me, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion on it, but the one and only thing for me that actually rationalizes this and makes sense of it in a way that actually explains the whole totality of it when it comes to Dogman and Bigfoot phenomena is the Nephilim theory. So I believe that they're
Mm.
both flesh and blood and paranormal at the same time. Flesh and
Yeah.
blood because I know that they do eat, I know that they do kill. I do know that they have been killed. I know that they procreate. They have pups. So we know all that. So you know right there that those are flesh and blood. But
Hmm.
at the same time, they also, and I don't know if this is each and every one of them, maybe some of them have different abilities than others. Some of them may be straight up only flesh and blood. But for the
Hmm.
ones that I have seen, some of the ones that I've seen them cloak. I've seen them.
So they have the
Um,
ability to cloak as well. Like a lot of
mhm,
people say Sasquatch does. Interesting. I
yeah,
had not heard that. That's interesting.
and there's multiple variations of cloaking.
Wow.
I've seen them cloak in different ways. When I say, if you ever seen the movie The Predator,
Right.
you remember how it looked like a mirage or
That
like
watery kind of
yes,
like shimmery.
yes,
Uh-huh.
I've seen that.
Mhm.
I've seen another form where they cloak where it looks like a fog or a mist that they put, or like a force field that they put in front of themselves, where it's trying to cover its face, where it looks like you're trying to look through a window of smoke or somewhat. But you can
Wow.
still, what the crazy part about it is that even in one of these pictures where I have that on camera, you can actually still see its snout. You can still see its eyes through that. I've seen them manifest. And when I say manifest, at one point when I've been recording and watching the camera, and I would always turn it sideways because I want to get a wide view shot, because I don't want to take it up like rectangular, I mean, straight up and down vertical, because you're missing a lot of stuff that's going on all across the board. So I would like to
Yeah.
prefer to record that way. But I watched one day, and I swear to God, like I messed up. I actually ended up deleting that video from the phone one day. I went through there to clean out the phone. And I was like, oh my God, no, you just removed a video that you
Oh my
actually
god.
caught something in real time manifesting in the camera. Like
Oh
you,
my
I'm
gosh.
still upset about that. But
Your
it
worst nightmare.
manifested.
Your
Yeah, it
worst
was.
nightmare.
And I said, you know what? See, I don't even want to fool with
Oh my
Samsung no
god.
more, because if I had an iPhone, you could get that out of the trash right
In the
now.
cloud. It'd be in the
Yes,
cloud right now.
yes. I was so upset because I had found some like groundbreaking stuff when it comes to this. Now that thing I watched on video, because I'm holding it up and recording live. I'm looking and I see this dog man come into existence. It started to appear.
Oh
I
my
don't know if
god.
you can just think of a and I know this sounds incredulous, all y'all that's out there in the comments right now. I swear to God, like this really happened. I wouldn't make this shit up. It actually manifested. It came into existence. It started to appear. The facial features started out subtle, and then it finally came into a point where
Wow.
now the eyes are fully visible, the nose and snout is fully
Oh my,
visible, and it's blinking too. And this one looked,
wow.
it looked different. It almost looked like feline like. And I've heard people talk about the cat people, and I can't really speak on that because I don't
I've
know
heard
enough
about
about
them.
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've heard people have encounters of them. Yeah. Yeah. I have one of my really, really good friends, Jeff Townsend. He's in the chat tonight. He's had his own dogman encounter. And one of the things that he described to me in such detail was it's because he caught it off guard as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't expecting him to kind of like be there and
Mm-hmm.
have a weapon drawn right on it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, he's told me numerous times when he's talked about the story, he never felt any danger, that he was in danger, or any aggression from it. And it's the only reason he didn't shoot its head off, pretty much, but I mean,
Oh yeah.
he talked about that, the eyes, and I mean, they're self-aware, and it recognized this and had this kind of like, oh shit moment. There's a guy
Yes.
with a weapon pointed right at my head. Like, it knew that he
And you
was.
they know what guns are. They know what guns are,
Yeah,
and they know what cameras are too, and phones.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because I think a lot of people think that Dogman is not intelligent, that they're just kind of same kind of mentality of as a regular dog, and I don't believe that at
Oh,
all.
absolutely not.
I I've never, and here's the funny thing. Even though I am not terrified of Dogman, Matt and I were out and we were researching, and I'm going to make it very short because I want to get back to your story, but just briefly, just what you were talking about, how taking the photos in succession. What happened to me was I had an encounter. I had a sighting of a Sasquatch.
Mm-hmm.
And the Sasquatch that I saw was kind of like auburn color with like gray skin. I saw him from here up.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very human looking.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw him. We locked eyes for a couple seconds, and then it was just like he went straight down and just sunk right down into the bush, right into the.
Yes.
So when he did that, I had my camera, I had my iPhone, I have like a gimbal and it's like a stick, a selfie stick kind of thing, and I
Mm-hmm.
had it completely extended and I had it above my head and I just started taking picture, thinking, oh, maybe he's going to pop back up eventually.
Right.
Okay. So I get home. I don't, I didn't find him anywhere in any of my photos, but I did see in my photos 5 of them. And like you said, talking about that succession. So I see photo 1, I didn't see much. The next photo, I see like you said, that side view, there's like that side
Mm-hmm.
view,
Yep.
okay? Because my daughter-in-law was to my right. My son Matt was to my left.
Okay.
So in the photo, he's actually looking in Matt's direction. So that's photo 1. Photo
Mm-hmm.
2, he's looking dead at me.
Oh wow.
Photo 3, 4, and 5, he's gone. And it was not the Sasquatch I saw. It looks like a dog man. It's even a completely different color. It's like black and gray, and it looks like it has like a muzzle. And
Yes.
I sent it to my friend Jeff, and I was like, "Hey, take a look at this." I've never because I don't put out things unless I really know, and I have like proof or I
Yeah.
vetted it out. And I was like, I'm not gonna put this out there, but I know like he's seen one for real. And I'm like, okay, just tell me what you think. And he goes, yeah, dog man.
You know what? I'm gonna put it to you like this, and a lot of people, a lot of people mess up when they and like I said before, everybody has a right to their opinion or their
Mhm,
beliefs or what they think these things are, but there's no experts in it. I'm not an expert.
mhm.
I can only talk about my experience. There's no experts. But any podcaster or any group founder or researcher or anybody who says they have all the answers, nobody has all the answers. I
No.
will say this though, but when you are diehard dog man, I mean flesh and blood only, or diehard paranormal only, you're putting these creatures in a box at that point. What I
Yeah.
mean by that is that you are now, for whoever, if you got your diehard subscribers on YouTube, or members or fans or followers, and they follow and believe everything that you believe. Because I always tell people, don't believe what I believe. I believe what
Right.
I believe for a reason. I believe because for me,
Exactly.
rationally, it's the Nephilim theory for me is the only thing that answers each and every single aspect of it. And I can
Mhm.
break that down for y'all shortly and tell y'all why I believe that. But if you believe one way about something, whether you believe it's flesh and blood only, then if you were in a debate, then you would be held responsible for making a case for why you believe that they're flesh and blood only.
Right, right.
You need to be able to do that if that's your
I agree.
belief on it, because
I
there's
agree.
many people who say that I thought, I just, they're flesh and blood only, but I've seen it do something that I've never thought that
Right.
it would do. It just disappeared out of nowhere, or it evaporated. um I've seen them. There's been times with Dogman where I've seen the upper body, and then there's leaves and stuff like that that go across the waist or something like that. But then there's an opening below that, and you should be able to see the legs and the feet and the rest of it, and that's just not there. So that hasn't
Mhm.
fully. So is that in another dimension, or is that cloaked, or what have you
Yeah.
done?
I
So there,
know.
But then a lot of people
It's
also don't realize that when it comes to Dogman and Bigfoot, I've not had Bigfoot encounters, so y'all don't quote me on this. You can quote another researcher or somebody else that some of the people might call that the woo factor.
mhm,
But when it comes to it, that there are people who say also that Bigfoot also can go completely invisible, period. So they can still, in that form, approach you while they're
mhm,
invisible. I did have, and I don't know, I'm going to go back. I got thousands of videos and pictures anyway, not thousands of videos, thousands of pictures in my phone and my iPad and device of these things. But what I can say is that they can go completely invisible and approach you. And if you know how ghost hunters or paranormal investigators, they will record EVP, Marty, and
mhm,
they will
mhm.
capture things that they didn't hear at
Yeah.
the time until they went back and listened to it later. I had, and I may still have at least one. I wish I'd been going through my phone that day, I swear, and I'm not lying at all. But there's times when I've gone back and listened to it. And if I was to like stand behind you right now, Marty, and lean forward to tell you a whisper in your ear, I'm that close to you. Now, imagine a dog, man, not like a regular dog, like the sniffing or the grunting or growling of a regular
Mhm,
dog. But imagine now something as huge as a dog, man, like that close to come up, like if it's telling a secret in your ear and you
mm,
hear it now, grunting, snorting, and what else was it doing? It was grunting and snorting. It almost sounded like it was sniffing, like you know how like this a dog
yeah,
will sniff you, or like it was
mhm,
sniffing my hair or something like that. But it was like it was right here. I heard it on the video. One other strange thing that nobody's ever been able to answer for me is what is that? And I've caught this more than once on audio, which I did not hear it during the time. What is that extremely loud under that carport? Their house is far enough away from the main street that you pull off to pull into the neighborhood. On two or three occasions, I've been out there recording, didn't hear it at the time. It was loud enough that I should have heard it if it was natural, but it sounded like something was dragging something as huge as, I'm gonna say, it sounded like metal scraping against concrete, but not like a
mm,
fork or something like that. I mean, it sounded like something as huge as one of those industrial string or industrial sized dumpsters that you might see at a restaurant or
mhm.
apartment complex. Somebody's dragging something that loud across the concrete, and that's happening right behind me right now. But I never heard that in real time, but it's on the audio, and I've heard that more than once. In addition
We've
to, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, I mean, we've caught all kinds of EVPs, all kinds of paranormal things. I mean, do you think that when it comes to the phenomena, and when I say the phenomena, I mean Sasquatch, Dogman, do you think that once you're aware of the phenomena, whatever the phenomena is, do you think that it brings all kinds of other phenomena into your life? I mean, that has been my experience when with this subject matter, that uh, when we have been investigating one thing, we get something totally different. But it's
Mm-hmm.
another kind, but it's still phenomena. It's still, it leaves. Do you ever feel, let me ask you this. This is easy. Yes or no, pretty much. Do you ever feel
Okay.
like you're investigating, you're researching, you're trying to figure it out, and you have
Mhm.
all of these questions, and you're a truth seeker. You're out there and you're seeking truth.
Yeah.
Do you ever at the end of the day just have more questions than you do answers? Because that's
Um,
how I feel sometimes.
I think in the beginning I did, until I came to the conclusion that for me, that the Nephilim theory for me answered all of it.
Hmm.
And if you want me to
You
in a
want
minute,
to
I'll go
go
into
ahead?
that.
Absolutely, go right ahead.
Okay, so originally I did have questions and I needed it to make sense, because anytime you see something like that that's not supposed to exist, then you're going to try to make sense of it. I'm a Christian, and for the ones who are out there listening right now that are not Christian, and from like more of a secular belief system. I respect everybody's opinions and beliefs, but
Mhm.
these are mine. So I'm not trying to make anybody out there believe what I think. And so I'm doing a disclaimer just to let y'all know that. So for me, the reason why the Nephilim theory covers it is because when you look at the Nephilim, as far as Genesis 6:4, it basically says there were giants on the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of God came into daughters of men and took wives, which they chose.
Mhm.
Well, taking of a wife, it means basically in those times, it was saying like if any person want God in the Bible basically said that sex is only supposed to be for a man and a woman. So when you went through the act of relations with somebody, then that was considered marriage. The fallen angels in Christianity in the Old Testament, when it said sons of God, at that point, Christianity had not been created. Christ hadn't come yet. And sons of God in the Old Testament were angels. Secular beliefs or even Greek mythology, you have the Greek gods like and Hercules and all these different ones. They call them the gods or
Mhm. Mhm.
titans or whatever they call them. So then you
Right.
still got the angel, titan, Anunnaki, all intertwined type deal, whatever different, it's the same thing coming down and having sex with human women. So when you have that and the result of that intermingling is a giant of that creation, if that
Mhm.
angel, we don't know what angels look like. I
Right.
mean, the Bible gives description of it, but they could come down in human form apparently and, you
Right.
know, have relations with a human. So,
Yeah.
in that same aspect, if you got a fallen angel and their procreation with a human woman, then you got a
Mhm.
giant human slash angel. So then, or Titan, whatever you want to call it, whatever suits your fancy. But now, what do you think is going to happen? Because during that flood, he didn't just only destroy the people at the time. He said he also destroyed, the Bible says, he also destroyed the animals, the birds, the fish, all the animals of the world, basically, at that time, because all creation had corrupted its way. The Bible doesn't go deep into it, but the book of Enoch does. It's got stuff in there that basically the
Mhm.
Bible hinted at, and it left out in Genesis. The book of Numbers even talks about it, and then a lot of people don't realize that in the book of Isaiah. And I'm gonna have to start looking this up for the shows when I talk about it, bring it up. I don't know what scripture that is. One of y'all that's out there watching right
Yeah.
now, y'all
Yeah.
can look in the comments while we talk and look up the book of Isaiah. Where does it say Seder? You're gonna have to look at the King James version, Google it, and come back and let us know what that is. But the book of Isaiah actually mentions the Seder. Today we call that a goat man. So I
Yeah.
like to say that there's no new thing under the sun. These things have always existed. They've always been
Mhm.
here. Now we take it outside of Christianity. The Epic of Gilgamesh. You had Anubis, an ancient Egyptian. Okay,
Right.
so what they were painting on those walls and stuff like that in those old times, you're not gonna paint like I can't make up something in my mind right now that I'm gonna go paint a picture of it and put it in a museum or paint it on a wall of something that I just concocted. You
Yeah.
can, but they were painting stuff that they were
Yeah.
actually seeing. Some people said that Anubis head that was a mask. Okay, maybe it was a mask, but what if it wasn't? What if it wasn't? Why? And then you got Osiris or Isis, and they had like birds' heads. You got like
Mhm.
Sobek, like Sobe
Mhm.
water. A lot of people don't remember that Sobe water is from the god Sobek. It had an alligator head.
Yeah.
You had like the Minotaur, like basically that was half bull, half man. This stuff is like now today we call that chimeras. There's nothing new under the sun. These things here for
Mhm.
thousands of years. So when you think about it on that aspect, then you got people that want to try to break it down and say, well, no, because it can't be a fallen angel. It can't be a Nephilim because angels don't need to eat. They don't eat. They don't need to do anything like that. Really? Really? Well, okay, that might work for you if you're not a Christian. If you don't want to accept that, then fine. But for me, it works because when it comes down to it, a lot of people don't know. For the ones who are Christian and is listening to this right now, and I can't remember what book this was in, but when when those angels came to Lot's house, when it was the Sodom and Gomorrah situation going on,
Mhm.
those angels came in there and they sat down and ate a
And ate with
physical
them.
meal with
Mhm.
Job and his family.
Yes.
Also, also apparently they was in physical form because the men of the of that land at that time, they saw these men, these angels coming to Job's house. They thought that they were regular humans. They
Hmm.
lusted after them, so they had a
Yep.
physical form. So they ate. They had a physical form. They was able to sit on his furniture. They were able to do all of that, and at the same time, they were still, even though they were in flesh and blood at that moment, they were still able to supernaturally wipe out like hundreds of thousands of people in that neighborhood, in that
Yes.
town at that time, and blind all the people so Job and his family could get out of
Mm.
town, um, before they destroyed the city. And so it's so many different aspects of it. So when you say like, well, angels didn't need to eat or demons don't eat, um, who told you that? The Bible don't say. I've never seen it in there where it says they don't eat, because it
Hmm.
says that in heaven they eat manna. I don't know what Job was serving that night for dinner to them. I have no idea.
Yeah.
He might have been serving manna. God might have, like, I'm trying to be funny right now. He might
Well,
have
what
sent
about, and
might have
yeah, I
made
mean,
Uber service
and it's been
down.
a really long time since I've like read the Bible for my own
Hmm.
personal reasons. But I mean, weren't there two angels that came in and told Sarah and talked to Sarah, and
Hmm.
they sat and ate, and she, like, they told her she was going to have, be with child. Like, I mean,
Yep.
there's, you know, there
They fought battles.
there's a lot. Yeah.
Well, do you remember Jacob fought with that angel too?
Mhm.
I think, what was his name before that? Jacob fought with that angel to, like, he wanted his blessing from that angel, and then after that, the angel ended up calling him
Mhm.
Israel. So
Mhm.
you can't fight something that's spiritual, like supernatural. You can't fight something like that. So that angel that
Mhm.
came down, it was in a flesh and blood form, a physical form of some kind, where it was able to actually tussle and fight with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's so many different aspects of it, and so that's why I say, like, the
There
biblical
is.
Nephilim aspect of it is the only thing for me that makes sense of
That,
it the most.
yeah, that it could fit in the box. Cuz yeah, that's what we're all looking for, right? I mean,
Right. Well, you have to look at Greek mythology too. That they're not the only ones. Christianity is not the only ones who talked about this.
mhm.
You've got, outside of
Mhm.
Christianity, you've got the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Sumerians even talked about it. Edgar Casey, in his books, he has mentioned Atlantis and Lemuria, and he has said that there were peoples, or I guess whatever you want to call it, creatures, beings. There were life forms that lived on Atlantis or Lemuria that actually had animal appendages. He was basically saying that people used to have animal appendages. Some of them had tails and had like fur or different stuff
Mhm.
like that. So when you look at all this, it's just, there's nothing new under the sun. These things existed. And then when you find out, some humans, and I think it might be very rare, but we actually have a tailbone. There's some humans in rare cases that actually have been born with a tail that has grown back there.
It's crazy.
I mean, a lot of people don't know that. So
Yeah,
it's a lot of stuff to this. And then,
there is.
like, so I don't want to, I could go on for days about it. I don't want to take over. So it's
Is,
real deep when it comes down to this.
yeah, well, the rabbit holes just go deep. They just keep going. They're endless rabbit holes, and
Hmm.
in all of these subject matters, right? Like Sasquatch too. Same same thing. Like there's
Hmm.
a million, there's flesh and blood. They travel in through portals. There's from A to Z. There really is. And
Absolutely.
and and I don't actually subscribe to any one particular like camp and stay in that one little camp, because I'm going to keep an open mind, right? Because I'm not going to sit and discount anybody's encounter or anybody's story or anybody's, um, you know, I can't do that, because if I was to say, well, that doesn't make any sense to me. I believe in
Hmm.
Sasquatch, but I'm not going to even consider Dogman. No, I can't do that, because if I'm expecting you to believe me that I had a Sasquatch encounter, but not believe your Dogman encounter,
Right.
like that's
Sorry, this hair is getting big.
yeah. So I'm not. I That's why I'm like, sometimes I say to I've said to friends and family, I'm like, I don't know where I draw the line anymore. Like, I think I believe in everything now. you know.
Yes. Well, my thought on it, like, just kind of like what you said, like, even though I have my beliefs and theory on it, I still want people, guests, to come on the show and tell different aspects of it,
Sure.
because people, like, when you're looking at it, if you're doing a service to your members or subscribers or fans, then you want them to be able to have all the evidence out there so
Yes.
they can make a choice for themselves, just like the same way you would if it was religion. Give it all to them and let them decide for themselves. I don't allow
Hmm.
people to come in and
Yeah.
disrespect people who feel that they are orbs, or, and I do feel like there's a connection too between orbs and lights in the sky, or UFO encounters and sightings and stuff like that that go along with sightings of Dogman and Bigfoot cryptids.
Hmm.
So there's different. There's this is like you said before. It's like a rabbit hole, and there's so much more information that's out there. And I don't know if it's going to be any point. I hope it does come to it where where our governments will actually admit to us that these things actually exist. But to some certain degree, they kind of already have, because a lot of people don't realize that in like Washington State and New York State, they actually have it in their laws, that it's illegal to kill a Bigfoot. Why would you put that in there if it didn't
Yeah.
exist?
Yeah. Here in Florida, that's it's the FWC pamphlet. I have a copy of it, and yeah, it says you can't take swamp. You cannot take swamp apes or skunk apes. It's
Yeah.
illegal. So
Hmm.
yeah. Mhm.
So why would you even put that in there? But what they count on is the fact that the average person, that's not into Bigfoot or Dog Man,
Mhm.
they don't know about this stuff in the first place. They're not going to be pulling up laws to find out anything about that. So they put it in
Right.
there, and there's a few people who know about it. But what's interesting too is that at the same time they come in, they already. I feel like that our governments, they've been researching, they've known about these things for, ain't no telling how long. I know that they said that when I
Mhm.
can't remember if it was what was it? Was it Columbus or DeSoto or one of these explorers that came over here? When they came over here, they said that they found or seen a dog-headed race of beings here when they got here. And this stuff is not brand new.
No.
Giants and stuff like that, giant skeletons have been found all over the world,
Yes.
several hundreds or whatever here in the United States. But when those archaeological digs were done, a lot of those bodies were sent off to the Smithsonian. You never heard from them again.
Yep.
And that's why any of you who are in the chat right now, if you are a dogman or Bigfoot researcher or eyewitness or anything like that, if you ever come across any evidence or DNA or anything like that, it would behoove you not to send it in to any of these government agencies or anything like that when it
Right.
comes to it to get that DNA tested. I was told by Nick Valente and I think Jody Cook also, they both said it'd be better for you to take that DNA and take it to your local vet that you trust, and you will at least get the results back from that to find out what it was.
Mhm.
So it's a lot of secrecy behind this, a lot of cover ups, um, a
A
lot
lot of
more than people realize.
disinformation.
Yes,
A
a
lot
lot
of
of disinformation.
disinformation. Yes.
And a lot of times when these agencies come in, Marty, they come in and they will, for the people who actually call the police or call law enforcement because they've killed one on their property or they had an encounter, when these people come in, not long after the police get there, then now here comes this other secret alphabet agency. Nobody knows who they are. They're not going to show their credentials or anything like that. They show up in
Mhm.
black SUVs and they basically bully and
Yeah. Yeah.
strong arm the police to the point where, like, no, we're taking over this case. Have a back seat. You ain't got nothing else to do with this at this point.
Well, I will tell you, Matt and I went. Oh my goodness, has it been 3 weeks now? It might have been 3 weeks ago. I had a show that was scheduled. It was actually June 18th. Was the show was scheduled for, and the night before that, Matt and I went on an investigation, and I'm not going to reveal where, but I will say it was very interesting. We had a lot of activity that night, but that wasn't the hard that for me wasn't the scary part. It wasn't that we
Mm-hmm.
had activity and that kind of thing. It wasn't that was not it. I woke up the next morning so ill. And Matt was at one point trying to use his parabolic dish, and he kept getting interference coming through the headphones. And he kept thinking, well, maybe it's this. He's looking. and it just all of this and it was just sounded like heavy static, like just static, like nothing but static, and we're like, what the heck is going
Yes.
on, you know? And I will tell you that the activity we had, they were very, very close to us. They were very, we couldn't see them, it was at night. They were very close to us, but I woke up that morning, the following morning, and I couldn't stand up. I literally couldn't stand up. I was dizzy. I was feeling faint. I was nauseous. I was literally, I couldn't sit up. I couldn't stand up. It was, and it lasted for 3 days. For
Yes.
3 days. And I told Matt, I said, whatever is out there, they have some kind of signal because it is in a protect like a protected area. There's something that they're playing out there. There's something that is causing this. And I am
Mm-hmm.
super sensitive to all kinds of things like that. And I was like, whatever's going on, I'm like, I can't go back there again. It was that devastating to my body. It was
It sounds like
awful.
you were zapped, which a lot of people talk about.
It
And
was awful.
you know how they say that they tell you a lot of stuff in Hollywood movies
Hmm.
that it's hidden in plain sight. There's a lot of stuff that they tell you
Yes.
in movies is not supposed to be this. And when that movie came out, I can't remember what year it was now. There was a movie called Rampage that came out. The
Hmm.
Rock, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock was
Yep.
in that movie, and they had these creatures that were genetically modified, or they had gotten into some. Can't remember what it was that happened with these creatures, but you had this white ape or gorilla that ended up like being affected genetically by whatever happened. I don't know if it was like some kind of biological weapon or whatever it was.
Hmm.
But then you had this massive wolf that was like way larger than regular size. They going through the woods trying to hunt these things down. And then there was this huge Godzilla or alligator type being too. So that's for me that meant like reptilians, Bigfoot,
Right.
and Dogman. And even for me, like with reptilians are concerned, like I've heard people talk about that all the way back since the times in the early 2000s when I was researching skull and bones secret societies, the Illuminati, and
Hmm.
the learned elders of Zion, all that weird shit, and some of the satanic stuff. So when it comes down to it, like reptilians, yeah, I believe reptilians exist. I do feel like that people can be possessed. I do feel that reptilians, although I've not had an encounter, I feel like the first account of a reptilian, biblically speaking, this is just my theory on this, was in the Bible in Genesis when the serpent came and spoke to Eve. Why do I say that? The reason I feel that is because you have to look at the fact that the curse that was put on it was that because you deceived Eve and you basically made her go against what I said. This is God talking. You basically made her go against what I said. So now your punishment you're cursed from this point on to crawl on your belly for the rest of your days.
Hmm.
Which means that, and going back looking at it now, I didn't understand it all these years until all this stuff came about. But now that means that it wasn't always crawling on its belly. That means that at some point, okay, it was either on all fours or whether it was upright. But Eve had a conversation with this serpent.
Hmm.
So for it to have a conversation, like I can't see like a regular snake having a voice box to be able to have a conversation with her. It wasn't on its belly at that point. So she's basically, to me, sounds like she's talking to a reptilian. She
Hmm.
didn't find it strange that a snake is talking to her. I mean, a regular animal, she didn't find it
Hmm.
strange. She's having a full dialogue and conversation with this thing,
Conversation. Right. Right.
which means that reptilians were walking around, or some type of reptile type creature, serpent, or whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
dragon, was walking around at that point in time where they actually, it wasn't a strange thing. So maybe, I don't know. I mean, this is just a guess. I could be completely wrong. So I'm not even going to stand by my own point on this. I'm just going to say maybe there was a point in time where they could communicate with animals, or they could communicate with other beings or other creatures. But what I do know is that the serpent story that was told to us, I don't feel like that was a regular serpent. I feel like based on the
Hmm.
curse, it
Right.
was originally not crawling on its belly. So there's your
Right.
reptilian.
Right. Yeah. That would make sense. It makes sense to me. Yeah.
Hmm.
I'd not thought of that.
I had to think
Yeah.
about it real deep, and then, and I'm a Christian, but then at the same time, there's things that I feel like we know that there's been like 66 books taken out of the Bible. There's several hundred,
The
maybe a
Council
thousand.
of Nicaea. The
Yeah,
Council of Nicaea. Like
yes,
a lot of people forget that.
they
Okay?
do.
They do. They forget about, Constantine's basically was kind of like, okay, we'll put this book in and put this book in and this book
Hmm.
in and this book in and you know, but
It's too it's too much stuff that's been taken out,
yeah,
and it
there's a
makes you
lot,
wonder why. Why was it
which
taken
is
out though?
yeah, be
The
well,
controversial stuff was taken out.
exactly.
The
Exactly.
controversial stuff that talks about
Mhm.
fallen angels actually
Yeah.
I don't know how it happened. I don't know if they took on the form of another
Mhm.
animal in order to procreate with that animal. Now you got a
Mhm.
giant lizard versus the fallen angel. Now you got dinosaurs.
Yeah.
The Leviathan is brought up in the Bible, and in the Bible,
Right.
Leviathan was a dragon. Now, so what's the difference between a dragon and a dinosaur? Oh,
Mhm.
we call it dinosaur today, but back then, what if they were calling it dragons? I mean, and a dinosaur, was that not a serpent of some type? Dragon, dinosaur,
Mhm.
same thing. As far as whether they were actually breathing fire and stuff like that, I don't know. But what I do know is that Leviathan was also like a water serpent at some point, like in the Book of Revelation. So if
Yeah.
this is true, I want to say
Yes.
this real quick, Marty, before I forget. But if that's true, then the strange part about it, Marty, is that you remember when those hurricanes happened like a few years ago, or like these different strange, like dragon looking, Leviathan looking creatures started washing up on the beach. Do
Uh-huh.
you
I
remember?
do. I do. There was
Mm-hmm.
one that there was something that to that description on the West Coast that and off on the West Coast of Florida in the Gulf that came up. Yeah, that was washed up.
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah, very strange things. Yeah.
Yep. And that's happened more than once.
Yeah. I
I'm gonna
mean,
have to go deep into this on another show, because I'm gonna have
do
to do a
what?
show about this. I'm gonna have to do a show on the Nephilim now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that
Yeah.
next. I'm gonna do that
Yeah.
next. I need to, and I got a few
Definitely.
people in mind for this. I'm excited about it because
Oh, for
it,
sure.
it it's so much to say about it when it comes to Dogman. I
Yeah.
try to stay on it, but I think I need to do a show basically specifically to that, because that's a
Mhm.
whole show by itself. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do that next.
That'll
It's a
be
lot
that'll
of
be a
stuff that's
really
happening.
yeah, I mean, when you think about a lot of the things that are described in the Bible, and I can tell you, I was one that I would read different versions, King James, New
Hmm.
American Standard Version. I actually have what they call a rainbow Bible where like all of everything is color coded, right?
Yeah.
And so you would know like what verses went with what. And it was, so you could cross reference. Like, yeah, I was big into it. So reading the different versions, there's all different types of words that are used. So sometimes one version would make it sound one way and another version would make it sound another way, right?
Yes.
So just in those different aspects, things can be changed, lost, misunderstood. So
Yeah.
yeah, that would be a really cool show. You definitely got to do that show.
I'm
You
going to. I'm
definitely.
excited. I'm gonna start
Yeah,
working on that this week. I'm
for
gonna try to get
sure.
that come up in August, because I'm like booked right now all the way up through the end of July.
Me
And
too.
are you?
Yeah.
I'm really
Yeah.
looking forward to it, because there's a lot to talk about with it, and I'm gonna have to actually do research and put my presentation together for this.
The month of July is all ladies for me. So I'm excited. I
Really?
all ladies, all ladies. I have Robin McRae next week, who she has a very close relationship with Sasquatch. She's also says she speaks with Dogman as well.
See, I've been wanting to
Um,
talk to her.
she's really awesome. So I have her next week. The week after that, I'm going to do a solo show. And the week after that is going to be Miss Jessica Jones. So,
Yes.
yeah. So, it's all ladies this month.
Yes, she's
So,
reached out to me too, and a few people have asked me,
yeah.
well, when are you going to have ladies on the show? Well, I had put a post in the group. A lot of ladies just don't come forward. It's so many men that
Yeah.
come forward, I guess it's like a male-driven field where mostly the men are the ones who
I
come
think so.
forward. And I kind of, feel like sometimes I got to
Mhm.
poke and prod the women, like to come on out, like bring them out,
Yeah.
like out of the box, like feel. You don't have to feel uncomfortable to tell your experiences,
Exactly. Come on,
but
ladies, get out here. Get us your encounters. We want to hear your stuff too.
absolutely, because y'all have encounters too.
Yeah.
Like,
And that,
so I want to get them
I
out.
I kind of wondered, always thought to myself, like, well, men are the ones that are in the woods more often. They're the ones that are hunting and hiking, and I think woods more men are out there than women. I mean, I'm not trying to be sexist.
No,
I'm not
no,
saying
you're right.
that. I'm just saying that I think that's why more men have encounters than women. But I can assure you, there's tons of us ladies, and us ladies got to come together and get out there and start telling our encounters, talking
You
to ladies like me and ladies like B Moss over here.
You got to, because we gonna make you feel
Come
comfortable when you
forward.
come on the show. Y'all don't have to feel like you're brand new or like
Exactly.
anything like that. Like, come out and talk about it.
Exactly.
Like, everybody's
Exactly.
in this, and like, I'm not
Hmm.
gonna let anybody attack any member. I mean, any viewer, subscriber, member of the group, channel, none of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because, like, at
Yeah.
this point,
Yeah.
like, that's just not going to be tolerated. We don't
No.
want that. People have enough
Mm-mm.
problems already as it is, like trying to tell their stuff to their family and friends,
Right.
and you shouldn't have to feel uncomfortable to
And
be
yeah,
amongst other supposed like mind believers. So
I
just
agree. I
feel
agree.
free.
I agree. So, if anybody has any questions for our guest, please, if you could put them in caps, because I didn't see any earlier. I didn't,
Yeah, if y'all got
did
any
you?
questions, put them in all caps. I guess we're getting ready to shut it down here shortly. Y'all put y'all's
Yeah.
question in all caps. I want to say this while we're waiting. Basically, y'all, when it comes down to it, a lot of times, like when it comes to looking for dogman pictures, uh,
Hmm.
dogman pictures and stuff like that can become a lot of problem in groups a lot of the times because people share pictures and then they're blurry and then they're dark and a lot of people don't see they see problems. It's just so what I would like and people are expecting to see pictures that are Hollywood version and that's just not the way these cryptids show up on
No.
pictures or video. It's just
Yeah.
not. So when y'all watching videos, don't just look at it for when you're watching videos and
Right.
listening to encounters, don't just only let it be for entertainment purposes. Learn from one encounter to the next. Put the common denominators of pieces of the puzzle together and understand, okay, I heard this about 10 times now. So this is a characteristic of some of the things that Dogman do. Make it like a little notebook or whatever, especially
Right.
if you're a person that this means something to you and you researching it enough trying
Right.
to find out.
Right.
Because
Right.
yeah, so it's important when it comes down to that. When it comes to pictures, anybody who's a member of any cryptid group, Marty, do you have your own group?
Yeah. It's South Florida Cryptid and Paranormal Project on
And
Facebook.
have you declined? And I'm gonna tell you about mine too. But have you had to decline pictures because they were so blurry you couldn't make anything out in it? It was too dark, or do you let everything through?
I let everything through, and I let people make up their own mind. Now, I will tell you, not that long ago, there was someone who posted a whole bunch of photos and then proceeded to get very angry when people were asking questions. Now, that and got very nasty. Now, that I do not allow, and that person is no longer in our group. But I allow people to post what they have and people can make their own mind up. Now we also say, we kind of have like a pin post that Matt put together for me, and it just basically says, when you put your pictures out there, be prepared for questions. Be prepared
Absolutely.
that people are going to ask you questions. If you don't want to answer them, then stay silent. Don't say anything. But you're not going to attack people for asking questions about photos that you
Absolutely.
posted and are saying are X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's become
Yeah.
an issue, and like for me, like
Hmm.
I'm trying to, and I try not to basically make it a thing, but I have to be careful. Well, I'm gonna say I have to be careful. People gonna do whatever they want to do, but I'm also trying to save some of the people who share this stuff because some pictures you look at, and I'm just gonna be honest, like you can't see anything in it. Now, I will not let a picture through if it's too blurry, too zoomed in, too pixelated, it's too dark. If you want to share pictures like that in groups, then lighten it up. There's plenty of apps,
Mhm.
whatever you can filter it and lighten it up, because what everybody in the cryptid field, whether it be Dogman or Bigfoot, is trying to come to when it comes to evidence, you want great pictures. So
Right.
whatever you share, make sure it's the same thing that you would want to see yourself when it comes to outstanding pictures or video or evidence when it comes to these things. And understand that I know for myself, I've got my own pictures that are, I know what's there. I can see it, but I know everybody else is not going to be see that, so I'm not going to
Right.
share that. So share your best pictures when you share stuff,
Mhm.
and don't
Mhm.
get offended when it's declined, because when it's declined, we're
Mhm.
just basically we have a right to approve and decline whatever comes through, but we're trying
Exactly.
to also make
Exactly.
it further this. So yeah.
Yeah, because you don't, also too, another thing that you kind of that you kind of sometimes run into with it is people then leave your group because they think that everything that's being shared in your group is all a bunch of hooey. So you have to kind of
Hmm.
be careful. It's like there's a balance, and it's not always easy. But when you're the
Hmm.
admin or you're the moderator, then you have to do what you got to do. It's your group, right?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, and but at the same time, like,
Hmm.
and I've had a few people to leave because of that, or to reach out on Messenger to question because of it, wonder,
Hmm.
well, why didn't it come through? Well, from one group to the next, like I joined a group today, and one of the things was on there: no blob squatch pictures. I mean, they had a whole rule about that, and I just say, when it comes down to it, I'll review the photos. Now, I've actually taken some people's pictures in, and I've actually, because they wouldn't go ahead and lighten it up, I've put them through the ringer and taken them through different apps to lighten them up, to make it more visible for people. But it's simple, it's easy, just do it. And when you share pictures, please also share description, give the
Yeah.
backstory on the picture so everybody
Yes.
understands what you want them to see. That's very important.
Yes. Yes. The setup of the photo, where it was taken, kind of like, yeah, 100%, because it gives that context to the photo. So, like I said, if I didn't tell you my whole story and I just sent you those two crazy, like, couple of crazy photos that I've got, I'm like, you would be like, what the heck? What the hell? What the hell? But it's
Yes,
like, yeah,
Marty,
context.
that's Jeff Townsend, Marty, he said Marty has the only photo of a real dog man sitting in a tree that I know of. You got some pictures, Marty?
That's the one that I talked about earlier. That's the only one I have. I have those like five succession pictures. That's what he's talking about, because he's the one that had the encounter, and I sent them to him and asked him to take a look. So
Well,
yeah,
we're gonna have to talk
yeah.
behind the scenes because I got to give you some more stuff too. I got a lot of stuff for you. I'm
Okay,
excited
girl.
about this. This is
Yeah,
awesome. Y'all, thank y'all so much for
absolutely.
showing up tonight. I really
Oh,
appreciate y'all in the comments too.
I, you know, these guys are awesome. I mean, I see. I don't know. There's a lot of new people in here, so they must be from your page or from your channel. And thank you guys
Well,
so much for coming.
I
I really
invited a lot of
appreciate
people
it.
from the groups tonight,
Thank
like
you.
50 or 60 groups, and I waited to the last minute because I've been busy today. But I
I
usually
was
try to
trying.
share so many.
Yeah, I was trying to get, but my thing is that I try really. I would love to post it in every group I'm in, but some of them they don't allow you to do any like promotion. So
Yeah,
I
on
we let
unless it's a
everybody
special.
in my group. I'm like, hey, come on, we all more information the better. You know what I mean? Like, bring it on, people. Tell us when you're having shows. That's how I saw you the first time.
Absolutely. Yes, I mean,
That's how I saw you.
and I allow
Yeah,
everybody from, like, I'm
yeah,
a part of, like, I don't know, probably 40, 50, 60 different cryptid groups, and like I'll share in
yeah.
them and stuff like that. My group is like so busy, like so many members and stuff growing like daily, and then the YouTube channel and stuff like that. So
You're
I,
blowing up,
a
girl.
majority of the time I don't really even have time, like the way I want to react, or,
Hmm.
or like, get in there and comment on other groups and
Right.
stuff like that. I just, it's so much going on, like I don't have time. Like I got to add more admins and mods to the team to help
Yes,
with this. It's too much.
it is. But you're blowing up over there. You're doing amazing, girl. You are a hustler, and you get out there and you like make it happen for yourself. And I am just thankful that I've met you, and you've taught me so
I'm,
much just in the short time I've known you.
yes, I'm thankful for you too, and I'm gonna hook you up. I'm about networking too, because I got a
Yeah.
bunch of people like I want to have. I told the ladies I interviewed last week. Krista, Michael, Tweety, and Aaron Eck of Blondes and Booze. Like I just started their group for them because they had a page, and I was like, well, y'all got a podcast too. Y'all need to promote your stuff. Like start a group. Like you really, because they have
Yeah.
conferences and all that stuff. You need to have a group.
Yeah.
And so she told me to go ahead and get it started for her. I started it for her. So they're getting ready to jump off with that. And then I want to have, and I had this in the group when I was only doing my shows on Facebook. I had a ladies cryptid panel. I want to have that again. And I
Oh,
have
that'd be awesome.
so we're gonna do that again, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
get with you tomorrow. We're gonna talk about this. I'm gonna try
Okay.
to get a gang of women together so we can get all this together. We're gonna have a dynamic show.
Awesome.
We're gonna put women on
I
in the
love it.
spotlight.
I love it. Let's do it.
Yes, I'm excited about it too. Thank y'all so much for showing up. Thank you, Marty. I
Thank
love you to
you.
death.
Thank you. I love you too. I love you too. And I'm just but you see, that's what's amazing about these communities. And when you reach across a bridge, right? And you just it's like it's fellowshipping. It's more than it's just fellowshipping, and it just makes you feel good. It makes
It
you
does.
just you feel comfortable, you feel happy, you feel joy. And I choose every single day of my life. Every day, I choose joy. I choose to
Yes,
love people. I choose to not tear down people. I choose to reach my hand out to people. I make
I
it's a
agree.
conscious choice. It's a
It's
conscious
important.
choice.
It's important, and it just
Yes.
goes to show that all
Yes.
the drama, negativity, or any of that kind of
Yeah.
stuff,
No.
beefing,
Mm-mm.
competition, it's not necessary. Do
No.
your own
No.
thing. Everybody like
No.
concentrate. Like when I
Yeah.
was listening to, and this will be my closing statement, but like I was watching a documentary. I'm gonna make this real quick.
Uh-huh.
What Kobe Bryant, and he was basically they were doing a documentary on him. He wanted to be the greatest basketball player. He wanted to be even greater than Michael Jordan. So even after practice was over, he'd still spend several hours in the gym and watching
Mhm.
videos of Michael Jordan to get better and better and better. Like the more you do, the more you put into your group, the more you put into your shows, the more interviews you do, the more notes you take, the more common
Yes.
denominators you put together, the greater you make it, the more posts you share, the more questions you ask in there. That's
Mhm.
what makes you build, and that's what makes it grow, and that's what makes the groups interesting because you've got members in the groups who have questions and they want
Right.
answers. So let's
Mhm.
get the dialogue going, and there it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do it.
All
Let's do
right. I'm ready.
it.
We're gonna get this together. We're gonna set it up tomorrow.
Yes.
Get a time and schedule and get some women together for this conference.
We got to do it. All right,
All right.
girl. Thank you so much, Bettina.
Thank
Again,
you.
I'm telling you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You've been an amazing guest, so gracious, so forthcoming. I
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
you
No,
very much.
I feel honored. I appreciate it, and
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna get you on my show next, and I'm gonna reach
Okay.
out to you tomorrow. So, with that
Okay,
being said,
honey.
good night,
Good
everybody.
night. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, everybody. I just want to thank you guys for being here. And I just want to see hi, Jackie's here. Dina, Jean, Jeff, you're still here. I can't believe you're still here. He likes to kind of like come in and then he's like, whoop, he slips out the back door without anybody knowing it. He thinks that I don't know he does that, but I know he does it. Ruger Ridge, thank you. Good night, dear. Marquetta, also, thank you. I made you a moderator tonight. I think Bettina talked to you about that. Man of Light, looks like I don't remember you being here before, and welcome. Thank you for coming. And there were so many amazing people. I saw Barry Browning in here at one time. Bigfoot Michigan Rob was in here. I saw D.A. Roberts. I saw Anthony. I saw who else did I see in here tonight? My gosh, there were so many people popping in and out, and I'm just always so blessed. And unidentified S4, um, Bama, thank you. Ralph and Cassie, thank you. I saw Cassie, um, uh, Oracles and Beyond. I saw Amber. Amber, I saw you in here earlier. I don't know if you're still here. Thank you guys, everybody, for showing up. If I missed anybody, please forgive me. It's just I really am still trying. Gary, thank you, Gary. I'm still trying to balance the interview and chat. So I'm still working on it, guys. Work in progress. That's what my tombstone is going to say. Uh, it's going to say work in progress. Always work in progress. But I love you guys. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening. Again, like I said, next week is going to be Robin McCrae. And she is a lifelong experiencer with Sasquatch and many other things. So it's going to be a lot of fun next week too. So make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment, and don't forget to put on your notification bells. All right. So you never miss an episode. So next week, I will see you guys on the continuum next Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Robin McCrae. See y'all next week.